Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. One of the more common complaints I've heard of Ahsoka Tano's portrayal in the Mandoverse is that she seems quite different from the young Snips we once knew. I'm guessing these are fans that remember her in the Clone Wars as a brash and sometimes impulsive young Jedi who could easily rival her master when it comes to self-confidence. She's also an individual who's always eager to verbally spar with those who disrespected her or treated her like a child. And that's kind of the thing, Ahsoka Tano was a child back then, and the events of the Clone Wars, getting framed by Barriss Offee for the Jedi Temple bombing, Order 66, would greatly shape her and force this young and bright-eyed teenager to quickly grow up and face the cruel reality of the galaxy. If there's anything that links all of the characters we've seen in Ahsoka so far, it's their shared suffering. None of these individuals have had the luxury of an easy life shielded from tragedy. And so Ahsoka, now in her older age, is calmer, wiser, and more muted in her personality. It's not that this Ahsoka is an imposter, she's simply just grown up and changed. This happens to almost everyone when they get older. Now, in the most recent episode of Ahsoka, we've seen some of that old Snips back, you know, the same Jedi who used to say stuff like this before commencing duels.
If it isn't the hairless harpy, tell you what, I'll give you a merciful death.
And it happens when Lord Baylan Skoll teases Ahsoka about her relationship with her former master. We talk about this thoroughly in our analysis of this duel. Lord Baylan knows exactly how to push Ahsoka's buttons, especially when he speaks of Anakin's fall to the dark side.
Surely that must leave a mark. Is that why you walked away? Abandoned him?
In this one line, he simultaneously reminds Ahsoka of her master's decline and her inability to save him. Even though we, the audience, know that Anakin's fall is not really her fault, and that Anakin was fated to fall no matter what Ahsoka did, Ahsoka's never been able to heal from the wound she suffered when she figured out what had happened to Anakin. This is why even though Ahsoka now knows of her master's fate, she'll always be looking over her shoulder for him. It's something that might trouble Ahsoka for the rest of her life. You see, Ahsoka's relationship to Anakin was different from almost every other pairing within the Jedi Order. In the old days, Jedi Knight, Jedi Masters, they would actually choose their Padawans. They would return to Coruscant and observe the initiate trials. But this, along with many Jedi traditions, became almost impossible to carry out because of the Clone Wars. And so Master Yoda and the rest of the Jedi Council took it upon themselves to begin assigning Padawans to Jedi in the field. Ahsoka needed a master who could handle her advanced abilities and also her personality. She was ready to step out into the world and become a Padawan, and she needed someone to ground her and help her mature. And I think if Ahsoka had been paired with a lesser master, a less skillful master, things would not have worked out. But luckily, Anakin is a lot like Ahsoka. The fact that these two were so similar in temperament and personality made them a perfect pairing. When Ahsoka and Anakin looked at each other, they could see their own weakness within each other. The impulsiveness, the overconfidence, which often got them both in trouble. And together, they would learn how to overcome these more destructive tendencies.
Master, you can make it, but everyone else is getting shot down. Master!
Shadow Squadron, new target.
We're taking out the starboard ion cannons.
Unlike most Jedi Masters, Anakin didn't try to distance himself from Ahsoka or reinforce the hierarchy of master and apprentice. If anything, he tried to treat Ahsoka like an equal. He never really demanded obedience from her either, and most of the time he was just focused on showing her that he cared.
It's been a long day for you, little one.
I can hold him, Master. I'm not tired.
What are you trying to prove, anyway?
That I'm not too young to be your Padawan.
Ahsoka, a very wise Jedi once said nothing happens by accident. It is the will of the Force that you're at my side. Just want to keep you there in one piece.
Anakin never tried to change Ahsoka's personality. He never forced her to be something that she was not. And I think that has a lot to do with his own terrible experience as a Padawan within the Jedi Order, which started off pretty rocky.
See through you. We can.
Be mindful of your feelings.
Your thoughts dwell on your mother.
I miss her.
Afraid to lose her, I think.
What does that got to do with anything?
Everything.
I mean, imagine being judged as a 10-year-old because you're afraid of your mother's safety because she's enslaved several light years away. And this fear would only get worse as he got older. The only reason the Jedi ever trained him was because of the wishes of Qui-Gon Jinn, the only Jedi Master that would have actually been suited to mentor him. Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well-meaning as he was just not a good fit for the young boy.
I don't sleep well anymore.
Because of your mother?
I don't know why I keep dreaming about her.
Dreams pass in time.
The Jedi's rigid view on relationships and family blinded them to what Anakin actually needed at this moment in his life. They saw Anakin's fears and worries as a troubling sign instead of something that they could have easily solved. All the Jedi really needed to do was to fly to Tatooine and free Shmi Skywalker. The Jedi were rich and had more than enough resources to do something like this. When the Jedi bent their own rules and accepted Anakin Skywalker at an older age, they should have also accepted the fact that he would be connected to his mother already. Forcing him to break off this relationship is probably one of the main reasons why he fell to the dark side. It just made no sense for the Jedi to do this. If they had saved Shmi Skywalker, it would have went a long way to secure Anakin's loyalty and help keep him on the right side of the Force. It would have prevented him from massacring an entire village of Tuskens, a clear step to the dark side.
I killed them all. They're dead. Every single one of them. And not just the men, but the women. And the children, too.
You gotta love Padme for sticking with her man through that. I mean, she clearly ignored some red flags there. But anyway, this whole ordeal probably made Anakin realize that the Jedi didn't really know what they were doing. And this would really shape his mentorship of Ahsoka. And so when Anakin takes on Ahsoka, they do bicker a lot. There's, a good-natured competition between these two. But Anakin never wanted his Padawan to experience the same soul-crushing judgment and coldness that he experienced coming up in the Order. And so whenever Ahsoka failed, Anakin would take her to the side and explain to her what she did wrong. But at the same time, he never pinned the blame entirely on him. He wanted her to know that they were going to learn and get through things together as a team. He made sure Ahsoka felt safe and that no matter how much he screwed up, her master was always going to be there for her. Like when she disobeyed in order to withdraw her squadron's attack run during the Battle of Ryloth.
First rule of war, listen and obey your superiors.
But sometimes you get carried away.
All that means is that I understand what you're going through.
But I failed.
It was a trap, Snips. It wasn't your fault.
And when she repeated that same mistake shortly after during the Battle of Felucia, when she had delayed again withdrawing her clones from the field. Instead of throwing Ahsoka under the bus, Anakin would stand by his apprentice in front of the Jedi Council.
I just got so caught up in my own success, I didn't look at the battle as a whole. I wasn't being disobedient, I just forgot.
Masters, this incident is my responsibility. Because of Ahsoka's advanced abilities, I forgot how young she is.
Every time Ahsoka screwed up, Anakin reminded her that he went through the same thing when he was her age. He always showed her a great deal of empathy, and that it was okay to get dozens, if not hundreds, of stormtroopers killed in completely needless and stupid ways. No, but seriously, Anakin was always an extremely empathetic person, and he realized just how young Ahsoka was and how crazy this war they were fighting was. He made the best of a terrible situation. He made sure to nurture and take care of this girl while she encountered ridiculous amounts of destruction and death. A lot of it caused by her own actions.
You must have patience. What are you trying to prove anyway?
That I'm not too young to be your Padawan.
Ahsoka, a very wise Jedi once said nothing happens by accident. It is the will of the Force that you're at my side. Just want to keep you there in one piece.
And I think he did the right thing here. I mean, so many Padawans and Jedi would go to the dark side because they couldn't handle all the death and destruction they faced, because they felt like they were alone, because the Jedi Order shamed them for having emotions and feelings. But Anakin always let Ahsoka know that no matter what happens, he's gonna be there. That's exactly the type of confidence you want to give to a young person where they're going through trauma, like fighting in a war. And so while everyone else was throwing their Padawan into the teeth of the enemy without any comfort or love, like those psychopath mothers at those child beauty pageants, Anakin always put Ahsoka's well-being above all else. The mission never came first, his Padawan came first. Like when he had a chance to strike down Count Dooku on Tatooine, could have ended the war, but no, he goes after his Padawan.
After my droids kill Jabba's son, they will deliver your Padawan to him. I can't imagine he will be merciful.
Or when Ahsoka gets trapped beneath the rubble during the second battle of Geonosis and everyone's basically given up on her.
We cannot abandon our Padawans.
You misjudge me. I too care for my apprentice. But if their time has come...
I refuse to let Ahsoka die.
Or when Ahsoka gets killed by one of the Mortis Force Guides, Anakin still does not give up on his Padawan.
You must help her!
I cannot undo what is done. There is no hope.
Yes, there is. There's always hope.
And finally, when Ahsoka Tano was framed by Barriss Offee for the Jedi Temple bombing, when Ahsoka was kicked out of the Jedi Order, everyone gave up on her except for Anakin, who desperately tried to find the real culprits. And right before Ahsoka was about to get sentenced for treason by a military tribunal, Anakin burst in just in time.
I am here with evidence and a confession from the person responsible for all of the crimes Ahsoka has been accused of. Barriss Offee, member of the Jedi Order.
And yes, Anakin was compassionate, he showed a lot of empathy towards Ahsoka, but he also had extremely high standards for his Padawan. He prepared her for battle better than any other Jedi Master in the Order. And I think this all, again, has a lot to do with his view of the Jedi and their inability to properly train and handle their students. Because the Jedi had always failed him, Anakin had his own standards for training. When Ahsoka Tano easily passes a combat test made for Padawans, which was clearly made during a time of peace, Anakin would create his own set of tests using what he thought were real-world situations, aka completely unfair and imbalanced combat scenarios. Because Anakin, from experience, knew that people in the galaxy viewed the Jedi as highly dangerous. And so they would prepare elaborate traps and strategies to defeat them. Little did Anakin realize, he was actually training his Padawan for Order 66. An event that she would survive, an event that many, much more experienced Jedi Masters would fail. Even as the war went on and Ahsoka became more experienced and, became a well-respected Jedi commander in her own right, Anakin was still, every step of the way behind her and worried about her safety.
Ahsoka, I am so sorry.
For what?
For letting you go. For letting you get taken. It was my fault.
No, Master. It wasn't your fault.
I should have paid more attention. I should have tried harder.
You already did everything you could. Everything you had to do. When I was out there, alone, all I had was your training and the lessons you taught me. And because of you, I did survive. And not only that, I was able to lead others to survive as well.
And none of this is lost on Ahsoka. She knew from day one that Anakin was special and different from all the other Jedi. Most of the conflicts she had with Anakin in the beginning of the war were not about differences in ideology. It was more that she was afraid that Anakin saw her as too inexperienced, too young, too lacking of skill to be a good apprentice.
You're reckless, little one. You never would have made it as Obi-Wan's Padawan. But you might make it as mine.
It's only natural for Ahsoka to develop so much respect and admiration for her master, and that's because he was a terrific master. He was a terrific friend and mentor. And so when Ahsoka encounters a future version of herself on the world of Mortis, who's come to basically warn her about the dark side of Anakin, here's what happens.
There is a wildness to you, young one. Seeds of the dark side planted by your master. Do you feel it? No. He is like no other Jedi. Passionate, impulsive, but I trust him with my life.
It's a real shame that Anakin was the chosen one. It's a shame that Chancellor Palpatine was hungry for Anakin's power. It's a shame that Anakin became a Jedi. They could never really understand or appreciate his compassion, his tremendous ability to care for another human being. If only he had gone with Padme like she asked, forgotten about the war and all the politics, he would have made a terrific father. He would have taken great care of his twins. When you're such a nurturing and loving person like Anakin, you create an envelope of safety around the people that you care about. This allowed Ahsoka to really grow into a highly competent and strong warrior. Like Anakin, she became resourceful, confident. There was rarely a situation in which she could not figure out a solution and prevail. Unlike many other Jedi, she never had problems connecting with the Force, and this is all due to Anakin's training. But in Ahsoka's mind, because she wasn't there on Coruscant when Anakin entered Palpatine's office, because she wasn't there to keep her master from falling to the dark side, Ahsoka probably perceives herself as a failure now. Ahsoka probably believed that her leaving the Jedi Order, leaving her master's side, played a big role in his fall.
The Jedi Order is your life. You can't just throw it away like this. Ahsoka, you are making a mistake.
This is Ahsoka's biggest regret.
I won't leave you. Not this time.
And I think this continues to trouble Ahsoka right now, in her 40s. This is ultimately why she lost her fight against Balin Skull. Lord Skull's brilliant shit-talking in the beginning of the fight completely makes her imbalanced and hot-headed. And it's for this reason that Ahsoka sees her old master in the world between worlds. She still doesn't really understand that when she became Anakin's apprentice, she became intertwined with the Chosen One, and that every decision she made since then, every obstacle she's overcome, was a part of a grander plan created and shaped by the living Force. When she was resurrected on Mortis and given the life energy of the daughter, the embodiment of light, she too became a part of a greater mission to bring balance to the galaxy. And so for Ahsoka to really reach her full potential and to, move past this stage in her life, she needs to be able to forgive herself for Anakin's fall. It was never really her fault. It was destined to happen anyway.
I understand. More than you realize, I understand wanting to walk away from the Order.
I know.